Hi world, it's Saturday the 17th of August 2024. It's about 11:30 a.m. in the morning as I record this. I'm doing this video old school because on the one hand all my techie people are away at the moment, and on the second hand I'm having real trouble with various different leads and cameras, and it's Mercury retrograde. So, let's stick to the old school for this one. Full moon in a couple of days' time. On the thumbnail to this video, you'll find the chart of the full moon. This is the most impactful full moon of the year by a long way. At the start of this year, I figured out 2 times that we're going to be hugely impactful on the planet. Of course, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction a few months ago was on the list, but it wasn't one of the top 2. The two were the Mars conjunct, Uranus conjunct Algol, and this full moon. So let's get the facts right. The full moon takes place between 25 minutes past 7 and 26 minutes past 7 UK time on Monday the 19th of August. 48 hours 2 days and 8 hours from now. The full moon will take place at 27 degrees 15 minutes of Leo, and the moon will be at 27 degrees 15 minutes of Aquarius. Uranus will be at 27 degrees 11 minutes of Taurus, precisely squaring both the sun and the moon to less than 5 minutes or 1/10 of 1 degree. So the odds on this being any tighter are about 3,800, 4,000 to 1. It's damn tight. Uranus brings change, which can be stimulating, innovative, exciting, fun and adventurous with words like independence, freedom and liberty. And it can also bring chaos and disorder, trouble, unpredictability, disruption, sudden changes that pull the rug from underneath your feet. Uranus is a game changer, and it is square the sun and the moon precisely at the moment of this full moon. This will bring change. The thing about Uranus, as opposed to almost any other planet, and I cannot prove this scientifically, but I know through my observation of over 35 to 40,000 readings that I've done over the last 45 years, Uranus works pretty much exactly. Now, in my opinion, exactly means to within less than a day. But I have to play safe here, so I'm going to say within 48 hours each side. With Uranus square the sun and moon at the moment of full moon, a full moon will last for 4 weeks. 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, between the 2 new moons each side of it. That's its generalised range span. But this will bring sudden changes over the next few days in ways that no one's going to see coming. No matter how much security or safety there is planned for any particular type of event or situation, Uranus will find a way through to bring challenge and change. And it can be very disruptive. It can also be very positive. So anyone who's doing anything over the next few days, my advice is straight away, factor in some wriggle room. Okay? Be flexible with your travel plans, your agendas, everything that you're doing. Factor in some wriggle room so that nothing has to be precise. That way you can adapt at a moment's notice, which is the language of Uranus. It's electrical. Sudden bolts of lightning causing sudden changes. And if this were all, I'd just be saying, yeah, this is a real stinker of a full moon and it's a real challenge, but it's got a lot of nice gifts inherent in it. But this isn't all. It just so happens that also on Monday, we have the first square of Jupiter to Saturn. Saturn is retrograde in Pisces. Jupiter is moving forward in Gemini. Jupiter squares Saturn about every 10 years. and it normally takes somewhere between 8 to 10 months. This is a long one. Jupiter will stand still and start moving backwards in a month or two's time as Saturn starts moving forwards, and they will square each other again. And then when Saturn goes retrograde in the second quarter of next year, Jupiter will be moving forward again, and they will square each other one more time at the very start of July of next year. What's really interesting about this is that at the moment of the third and final Jupiter-Saturn square, both planets would have changed sign. They'll both be at around 0 degrees or 1 degree of Cancer and Aries, respectively. Jupiter-Saturn aspects, particularly the conjunctions, the squares and the oppositions, seem to be indicative of changes globally in terms of financial, business and economic arrangements. It does seem that in recent months, a number of countries globally have decided to take on the idea of more austerity. Now, I know a number of you will hear the word austerity and go, oh no. But every country in the world is in massive debt. I've yet to find out who they're in debt to. It might be this crazy thing called the World Bank or something called the IMF. I don't know. Personally, I'm in favour of just writing off debt completely, because I can't find out who actually the money is owed to. The whole fiscal system is going through a major reboot in the next 9 months. I am in favour of a global currency because that gets rid of exchange rates and a lot of money laundering and blah, 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 blah. And a number of you will go, oh no, that's planetary control, that's global conspiracy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's my opinion. I'm in favour of a number of things which a large number of you will find untenable. But as I get older, I care. It's not that I don't care what other people think. I just see solutions to the world's problems. It seems to me that there's going to be a massive economic reset over the next 9 to 10 months. And it would be very easy for a lot of people to go, oh my God, no, the banks are going to get more control. The governments are going to control the money. Cash is going to disappear, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not. But there is going to be a reining in of irresponsible spending. There will be a more equal sharing of the limited resources that are out there. Interest rates will come down. Pay settlements will become more stable. Housing prices will reach a balance point. Hopefully, the extreme rich will get less rich and the extreme poor will get less poor. This is the Jupiter-Saturn square at its most positive. But the first pass of a square is always the time where events occur. The second pass will be when there's a set period of reassessment and reevaluation and reconsideration. And the third and final pass will be either continuing the things that went right the first time or adapting and adjusting actions so that it's improved on the final pass. But that's not till July of next year. So over this next couple of months, there's going to be a lot of news in the papers and on the television and in the media of all types around how hard everyone's struggling and how much financial difficulty the world's in. But that's because there's a reset going on, and it is necessary. Sorry to be the harbinger of bad news, but there's a positive side to this. Saturn is going to curb Jupiter in Gemini's capacity for enthusiasm and expansion and growth, whereas Jupiter is going to look at Saturn in Pisces and saying, don't be so glum, come on, cheer up, there's positives in every scenario here. So we're going to see the extremes of paucity and expenditure coming together. And out of this will come some type of much greater balanced, cohesive, stable economic pattern. And in many ways, this is a necessary thing because this is the reset before the big one comes. And by the big one, I'm talking about Saturn and Neptune moving together into Aries as Pluto properly emerges into Aquarius and Uranus moves into Gemini. All of which is coming in the next year and a half now. Year and a half to 2 years. So this Jupiter-Saturn square is necessary because it's helping us get our ducks in a row, getting our houses in order. And there will always be people who will complain. So stand up and do something about it. The positive side of this is that we find balance inside ourselves. If we take this out of a global perspective and put it into an individual perspective, this is about us deliberately choosing not to be so downhearted, glum, miserable, but also choosing to be much more positive, upbeat, whilst at the same time being realistic. Because otherwise we're going to go to extremes and there will be problems. Big problems. Jupiter will square Saturn exactly on Monday. Also on Monday, Venus in the sky at 17 degrees of Virgo will oppose Saturn and square Jupiter. So on Monday, we have the exact opposition of Venus and Saturn, both square Jupiter, and the exact opposition of the Sun and Moon, both square Uranus. And we have a Mercury retrograde, conjunct the Sun, opposite the Moon, square Uranus. So, I do expect technological breakdowns over the next few days. I do expect a great deal of confusion around he said this or she said that or I thought you meant this. I do expect a great deal of verbiage, of hot air. And I suggest that any intelligent person is going to take any type of external development in the world, large world events with a pinch of salt over the next few days. In this last week, every week, although not so much over the coming couple of months because I'm taking time out to film this documentary that I'm doing, over this last week, I did my normal amount of readings, 10, 15, 20 readings, which has been my norm for the last decade. I'm stopping readings now until November. But one of the people I dealt with, she was born at a time when Mercury retrograde was conjunct Mars, and they were both opposite the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. And she currently has Pluto in the sky, squaring her Mercury retrograde, squaring her Mars, squaring her Saturn, squaring her Pluto. And if that's not enough, she also had Neptune squaring her ascendant and Uranus in the sky squaring her moon. And I was talking to her, I was saying, mate, this is the most difficult time of your entire life. And she said, yeah, I know that's what it looks like astrologically, she said. And it would be I've had so many challenges and so much trauma and problems in this last 6 months, she said, but I've come through the other side. I've just decided I am just not going to let myself go down. So what's the positive of this, Steve? So I was able to help her in managing this in a much more user-friendly way. And she came at this going, right, all of these challenges are so difficult, I'm going to push through and find the positive. And I ended up telling her I was so proud of her because there's always a positive. Now, the Sun, Moon, Uranus, T-square over this coming couple of days. I don't want to go here, but I have to. It does affect the American election. The Sun and Moon opposition is on top of Donald Trump's Mars. It is also sextiling and trining Kamala Harris's Sun, Moon opposition, because she was born with the Sun opposite the Moon in Libra Aries. I do expect eruptions of some type in the American election race over the coming few days. And of course, the big one around November the 5th, with Mars exactly opposite Pluto on the day of the election. That is the last remaining challenging time of 2024 after this next few days is over. But if we actually take it out of the global and refer to it at the personal, that's Saturn Jupiter square, hit by Venus particularly on Monday, but that's a one-time situation. But that Jupiter-Saturn square, it's particularly impacting on those people born around June the 6th, 5th to the 10th, and March the 5th to the 10th. And if you're one of these people, then this year is bloody hard work. But it's up to you if it's hard work in terms of challenges, difficulties and problems, or if it's hard work in terms of effort, efficiency and effectiveness. That is your choice. For Sun, Moon, Uranus opposition, it's particularly affecting those people born around 4 days before the end of Leo, Aquarius and Taurus. So May the 18th, plus minus a couple of days. August the 19th, plus minus a couple of days. And February the 16th, 17th, plus minus a couple of days. And if you're one of these people, if you hide under the bed will collapse on top of you. Use your energy so that it doesn't use you. Get out there and dance. Do something in a projective and assertive way without being confrontational and aggressive. Don't take risks. Do take chances. And be intelligent enough to know the difference between the two. Don't get angry. Walk away from confrontation and just say, look, I hear you. I've listened to you. I'm going to walk away and think about it now for a few days. This is a time where both individually and globally, there's going to be a lot of headless chickens out there complaining about the economy, the finances, the big business, interest rates, stuff like that, but also about individual freedoms being limited and curtailed. I'm old enough, and a lot of you are old enough to remember the days before computers. There was very few conspiracy theories, if any, before 1995, 96. And they were still around. We just didn't have the technology to communicate them. The internet has been a wonderful tool, but it's also fostered a great deal of anger and paranoia. Finally, in recent days, I've become very aware of a significant number of astrologers who have been talking about this time and the next few weeks leading up to the American election as a time of war. And yes, there has always been war. And there is war now. Iran's about to go head to head with Israel. Russia and Ukraine are knocking 7 shades of excrement out of each other. There's always been war. The world is flooded with refugees. The reason the refugees are coming is because the regimes in the countries where they come from predominantly are totalitarian and authoritarian. And they are armed by the countries that the refugees are coming to because arms sales are the biggest business on the planet. The hypocrisy of humanity is becoming more and more obvious. Astrologers have a moral and ethical duty to stress not only the challenges but also the positive. So when I hear other astrologers talking about how this is end of times and we're heading into a global war, I feel like strangling them. You should know better. You should be ashamed of yourselves. It is our duty to stress the positive. And yes, even in the darkest of times, even in the most difficult of times, such as this full moon, there is always a positive. And those of you who come through this next 4 or 5 days without buying into the hype and spin and actually doing something with their lives, especially if it brings bringing a lot of things in one's life to a successful conclusion and clearing the decks so that when the future comes in, it doesn't have to negotiate old baggage. You're doing yourself and by extension, the environment around you and the world a really big favour. Use this energy intelligently. This is the best use of astrology. My rant is over. Take care, world. Bye.